The 1920s and 1930s, to me, and I've often said this, it is one of the greatest time periods for fountain pen manufacturing that I've ever seen, in my opinion. I mean, you've got some great manufacturers like Waterman and Sheaffer, Parker. You've got some other brands out there like Wall. And I'm just really happy with a lot of the offerings that you can find. This pen right here is yet another Sheaffer. Now, guys, I gotta be honest, I did not plan on doing so many Sheaffer pen videos. It just kind of worked out that way. And to be honest, I got yet another one up and coming. But this is another one of those pens that I got as a lot from Antique Digger over at antiquedigger.com when I got an instant message saying, hey, I got a bunch of pens that I'm probably not going to fix up, and I just want to sell as is. And so this is one of those that I selected. This is a Sheaffer Balance with a Feather Touch number 5 nib. And it's a little on the smaller side. It's actually 5 inches end to end. So it may be a little smaller than some of the Sheaffer Balances that you've seen, but it is considered a balance, and it does have a Feather Touch number 9 nib on it. And it's a lever filler, and that's one of the reasons why I went ahead and got it. Besides that, that carmine red. I absolutely love the carmine red on these vintage Sheaffers. I'm digging it. I mean, it's still got a good strong imprint. You can see right there. I probably don't even have to give you a close-up capture of that, but look at the striations in that pattern of that red. Absolutely love that, together with that gold trim on that cap band and here on the clip. It absolutely is stunning to look at. I've got other Sheaffers in the carmine red in my collection as well, and this one just happens to be one that I picked up, like I said, fairly inexpensively, and I did the restoration on it myself. You know, I've been using this pen this afternoon because I finished restoring it just today, and I figured I'd take the chance to go ahead and show it to you. Now, this probably came out right around 1931 or so. That's when they started to make the Feather Touch number 5 nib for the Sheaffer Balance. And there's a little bit of information I'm going to put up here on the screen about that from richardspens.com. By comparison, the last video I did was on this one right here, that Sheaffer Flat Top, that Jade Senior. You can see the size difference between the two, the girth difference. So, like I said, I didn't plan on doing yet another Sheaffer video, yet here I am. But let's give you an idea of what it's like with a modern pen. How about a Pilot Metropolitan right next to it? So it's a little smaller than a Pilot Metropolitan. And Platinum Preppy, you know, even bigger. And yeah, Platinum Preppy, believe it or not, I do eyedropper those, and I put Nuller's Bay State Blue in it. I figure that's a good, safe way to eyedropper is on an inexpensive Platinum Preppy. And I get to have Bay State Blue at any time with a huge ink capacity. And another one I'm going to talk about, the Script Cert. I'm probably going to do a video on this, which is actually a Sheaffer's cartridge pen that came out in the 1960s, so I'll be doing that video. But according to Richard's Pens, this came out somewhere around 1931 and ran for several years of production with that Feather Touch nib. So that Feather Touch nib is an open nib. You know, it's more of a traditional, and it's a duotone nib. I know I've got a pretty good up-close shot of that. What I find interesting too is on the section right here, you actually have an ink window that's right there. That ink window where you can see the ink, and I put in a red ink and you can see it through there. I actually did take a shot for you of what that looks like when I put an LED light up to that section, and you can see the light proliferating through that, and so it gives you an idea what the ink window looks like. Another interesting thing that I found is the feed here to this actually has a stem, so it does not extend solid from that tip all the way to the back like a lot of sections do. This one actually only extends just a little ways into that section, and then there's a stem for the remainder, and that is done so that you can see that ink in that ink window, which was kind of neat. So, you know, I put a new sack on it. It actually did have a pliable sack, Now this is a sack that was on it, but and it was pliable. You could feel it. It didn't seem like it was too bad a shape, but I didn't know how old it was, didn't know how long it would be a good sack, and it really needed to be cleaned out. So I was able to knock that nib out, and in that ink window there was actually some ink staining, some residue ink. So I had to get in there and I had to scrub out some of that ink out of that ink window to try to make it as clear as I could. And it's still a little discolored as of right now, but you know, it's this pen is what, 95 years old, or 90 some years old, so I can't complain. But it's absolutely great shape. I was really pleased with the physical shape of this particular pen. And it was relatively easy to restore. Lever fillers are not hard to do. I actually have a video out there on how to restore a lever filler pen, how to change the ink sac. And hey, I'm not a professional. I use the tools that I have. I invested in a few tools, and I don't do it for a living. Some people like that video, some people don't. I made that video to be geared towards newbies, people who have never done it, to try to take the intimidation factor out of it. It's a video that I wish that I had seen when I first learned, rather than cobbing together a few things on the internet and putting them together as a whole unit. So let's see how this particular pen does, all right? So you pull it out and you can post it. And it feels good in the hand posted. I mean, that's how I think I would prefer to write with it. And you can without it, but it's like the whole pen overall length is only 5.00 inches according to my digital caliper. But I probably want to post that just to get that little extra throw right there. And what did I put for ink? Well, because it's a red carmine pattern, I put in Waterman's Audacious Red. Good safe ink for fountain pens, especially vintage. So let's go ahead and write with a Sheaffer. And this is a member of the Balance family. One of the things, if you notice, there is no white dot on this, and so if you're looking for that, going, that's not a real Sheaffer, there's no white dot. Yeah, there is. It's a real Sheaffer, but there's no white dot. Okay, but this has a feather touch number 5 nib. This particular nib, even though it's a fine, I went ahead and just because it's fine doesn't mean it has to be scratchy. So I took out my nib smoothing kit and I actually did some work on this, and I got it so it writes a lot smoother than it did at first. So I'm a little happier with that. You do have a little bit of flex in it. But I am happy with how it turned out by comparison. And you do have some feedback. When you write with it, you can tell you do have some feedback that comes along with it, and what you would expect actually from a fine nib of the time period. But it keeps up with me fairly well. And I've been happy with how it's been writing since I purchased it. Or I say purchased, since I restored it, to be more accurate about it. It was another one of those where, I had a little bit of time, and I figured, why not? Let's just whip out the tools, and got the motivation somehow today to go ahead and do it. This was a restoration today, so I have not had a lot of time with it, but I have been using it a lot this afternoon. So there you go. Sheaffer Balance. Feather Touch, number 5 nib. My understanding is the Feather Touches are fairly collectible or desirable, at least according to some of the reading that I've done online. Beautiful carmine red, great condition. Picked it up fairly inexpensively along with a bunch of other pens, collectively made for a good price tag though. But overall, not being in restored condition, I knew it was something that I'd be able to handle all on my own and be able to put back into a beautiful, reasonably good condition, usable pen. So there you go. Yet another Sheaffer. Didn't plan on it, but a vintage Sheaffer. The Balance in a Feather Touch number 5 nib. And, it's worth considering if you ever want to buy a good used vintage pen. and you can restore them. It is possible to do it. As a matter of fact, coming in, I've got yet another Esterbrook. That's a vintage pen that I'm going to be restoring here shortly, and maybe we'll do another video on that. All right. Well, there you go, folks. Thanks for watching, and got some giveaways coming up. Just keep an eye out for that as well. And oh, by the way, if you do want to go shopping for antique pens, antiquedigger.com, 10% off all your purchases using discount code Troy. So look at his existing stock, and you may find something that might surprise you and go well into your collection. Thanks, guys. Bye.